She's My Prey by Celeste King, Episode 9.
So, big boy, interested in recreating any of these chapters with anyone?
Anyone? You never cease to amuse me, Samara. As if there is anyone but you.
Me? I'm flattered.
You're absurd, that's what you are.
What? You can't flirt with me like you used to anymore?
Sweetheart, if I did that, they'd kick us off this broadcast right now. They'd have to get the uncut version of this conversation from Worlds of Protheka.com, like the rest of the steamy content in these stories.
Oh, you know how to give a girl butterflies. You heard Eroth, dear listeners. If you want the spicy chapters and scenes that YouTube has forbidden with their guidelines, you know where to find them.
Use YouTube 30 for that sweet 30% discount and enjoy every dirty detail.
This is episode 9 of Celeste King's She's My Prey. Chapter 47. Sadie. I know I told Renem not to come for me, but after 5 days I'm missing him too much. I told him I have a plan, and I do, but it is proving to be so much more difficult than I had previously thought. I need to get Indor and Gandalf together, and while my betrothed wants to be with me all the time, his father is quite elusive. I was honestly starting to get concerned that I might actually have to act on my fake intentions if I spent any more time with Indor. Luckily, the Zagfer let it slip as they readied me for tonight. They were muttering about how I needed to look perfect, because the Master would be joining us too. I did everything I could to squash the excitement that bloomed in my chest. But I know I must have looked more excited than normal from the looks they were giving me. Hopefully they blamed it on a girl in love, right? When they leave, I take a deep breath, looking at myself in the mirror. I hate the way they do my makeup and hair, highlighting my features in such an odd way and pinning my hair up. But the elves like it, so I say nothing. The dress they've strapped me into leaves little to the imagination. It hugs my curves down my body, so much so that it's nearly squeezing the breath out of me. Hopefully like this, Indor won't be able to think about anything else to realise what I am doing. Gandalf will be tricky to handle given how carefully he scrutinises me every time I see him, but I think I can be fast enough that he won't notice either. Giving my reflection a nod, I head downstairs, and I can't hide the shock on my face as I find myself descending the stairs at the same time as Monica. Ever since my return, Monica has been largely forgotten by Indor. When I told her I was taking my place back, that was true, and while I knew she was still in the manor, I hadn't expected them to call her down for things like dinner with Gandalf, and even more, I'm shocked to see the madam. How often is she here? Is it just because Monica is a reject that she needs to deal with, or is it to keep an eye on me? Either way, the latter is happening, and I can't afford more eyes on me tonight. Monica? I greet her with a tight smile. Her eyes narrow and she snaps out, Sadie. Madame Fleur. I give her a light tone, like I'm surprised and excited when I am feeling neither. Suspicion is written all over her face in the hardness of her eyes, the strain of her lips, the stiffness of her posture. How lovely it is to have you joining us. She gives me a once-over, and I seem to have only made her more interested in me. The one good thing about this, though, is I know the madam will try to hide any of my mistakes if she catches them. She won't want Indor to have 2 defects, and even if she is suspicious, Indor isn't. He's been seeking me out, trying to get me in bed, but still. I can tell he thinks nothing of my behaviour or absence, and that is exactly what I need. We enter the dining hall together, and Indor walks up to me immediately with a wide grin on his face. His eyes are dancing flames that promise intentions I have no desire to fill later. Sadie, you look just lovely. I smile under his praise, even though it makes my skin crawl. I'm glad you think so. From across the room, I see Gandalf watching me carefully, and I grin at him. His answering smirk makes my stomach twist, and everything in my body is screaming at me to run. I don't, though. I take the seat across from Indor, between Monica and the madam, and Gandalf sits to Indor's left. Absent-mindedly, I smooth out my dress, hoping no one can see the bump of a small vial hidden in the folds of my clothing. Really, Indor should be more careful of where he takes me. He didn't see an issue with showing me around his study, and I'm almost certain that he still doesn't know that he's missing a vial of poison from his personal collection. What he needs it for, I hope to never find out. With the madam so close, it will be difficult, but I intend on slipping the contents of the vial into Gandalf's glass, and the sooner, the better. I track everyone around me, looking for the opportunity, and that's when the Zagfer come in. They start to fill everyone's wine glass, starting with the madam. It's perfect, and while I know I may have to pay for this plan, it's the best I have. Without even knowing it, Indor sets it up for me perfectly. He reaches across the table, taking my hand. I have a surprise for you later. I raise my eyebrows. Oh? I giggle, looking down at the table before lifting my gaze back to him. What kind of surprise? One I think you are going to love. He licks his lips, and I think everyone at this table can sense his intentions. I flush with embarrassment and fear swells in my stomach, but I play it off with flirty behaviour. Oh, I can't wait! I see the Zagfer approach behind me and take my chance. I think I'm just going to freshen up before... I stand up as I speak, knocking right into the elf and spilling wine all over myself. Not ideal, but like I said, it was the best plan I had. Sadie! The madam hisses as she glares at me, and Monica scoffs at the same time. The madam opens her mouth again to reprimand me, but Gandalf holds up a hand. It's fine, he says in a calm tone that seems to suck all the air out of the room. I smile apologetically at him, and in a frantic tone that I have worked to perfect with Indor over the past few days, I offer, Sir, let me serve you to make up for it. His eyes dart from me to the Zagfer, and he nods, leaning back as the table is cleared and moped up. That works to my benefit as they remove the wine glasses, and I go to the side table against the wall where the wine and extra glasses are waiting. With my back to everyone else, I deftly pull the vial free of my dress, empty the contents into the glass, and pour wine in before anyone can see. The Zagfer are too busy scrambling to reset the table that no one is paying attention to me, and I set the glass before Gandalf, giving him a smile before taking my seat again. Indor boasted enough that I know it will take 2 hours for the poison to start to affect his father, so I have time. I sit quietly, the perfect picture of poise, all through dinner, even as Indor continues his advances. It isn't until my third glass when I see Gandalf leaning back, seemingly more relaxed than before. Its effects will start showing soon, and I don't want to be here for that part. I can only hope they have all forgotten that I was the one that served his wine, and even if they do, the poison is Indor's. I can blame it all on him if it comes down to it. I finish my third glass, looking at my mostly empty plate of food, and give Indor a coy grin. I'm afraid I am quite tired, and I believe I have a headache coming. His lips curve down. You have been plagued by those of late. I nod. Unfortunately, it seems that way. Can we reschedule the surprise? He leans back, folding his hands over his stomach as his gaze tracks across my face. There's a haze in his eyes that alludes to his drunkenness. He's consumed more wine than anyone else at the table, and I'm afraid of what that means for his behaviour. But then he nods. Of course. Another time, when you are more rested. I make sure my smile looks grateful and whisper, Thank you. Standing from the table, I bid everyone a good night and start down the hall toward my room. But I don't make it too far before I hear footsteps behind me, and my heart jumps in my throat. Just as I turn to see who it is, I feel an arm lock around my waist, and I'm pulled into one of the empty rooms in the hall. No! I cry, but that doesn't save me as I'm jerked over the threshold. My heart pounds, and I tremble as I turn to face whoever has followed me. What is going to happen to me now? Chapter 48. Sadie. His breath is hot and bitter on my face, reeking of alcohol. How much did he drink tonight? Just barely. I manage to control the grimace that threatens to escape. Indor seems to notice my recoil. He squeezes my arm in frustration, smirking when I finally wince. "Tonight's the night," he declares in a voice that's almost a song. "Are you ready for it?" My mind spins, trying to think of how I've successfully put him off so far. "Not yet, dear." I work hard to keep my voice even and calm despite the panic that is coursing through my veins. He seems more persistent tonight than ever. "We aren't married yet," I continue. "I think it's important to wait until it's official. You know how these things matter to women, I'm sure." He sneers, his drunken breath wafting into my face. It's so strong that it burns my nose, and I reflexively lean as far away as I can. "I'm not interested in your formalities," he growls. "I already paid for you, didn't I?" He lets go of my arm, and for just a moment, I am relieved. It doesn't last long, however. It turns out that he is not letting me off the hook. He uses his free hand to grab my hair instead, forcing me to my knees. I scream, though I'm not sure what good it will do. Perhaps I'm just hoping it will knock some sense into him. This Indor is different from the one I have been seeing, scarily ruthless, and without even the illusion of cursory kindness. My knees burn as they hit the floor, and tears spring to my eyes. Even through my watery eyes, I can see how something lights in his face. He's enjoying this. No amount of protest will help me. The more that I struggle, the more satisfying it will be. I cannot guilt a cruel elf into feeling compassion. The thought makes my stomach turn over, more disgusted by him than ever. He bends down to push his face against mine. I try hard not to wince, not wanting to give him the satisfaction of my discomfort. "I've had enough of your games," he screams. I focus on a little vein in his forehead, popping out so far that I think it might burst. The one compliment I could give Indor is that he has always been extraordinarily composed, refined even. This drunken version of him is belligerent and out of control. The fear squeezes down on my chest until I can't breathe. Indor has come completely unravelled. It sinks in that there's no telling what he is capable of in this state. I am half afraid he might kill me. "No, he can't kill you," I try to reassure myself. "He needs you alive." The thought is a hollow comfort. In his current frame of mind, I'm not sure he can remember anything but his rage. He starts tugging at the top of my dress, getting frustrated when it doesn't slide off my shoulders easily. He bites out a curse, fisting the material to yank me to my feet. It tightens around my neck, choking me. I panic and begin to kick my legs. It's not a conscious thought as much as the reflexive desire to save my own life, the life which I feel ebbing away. The act only makes him angrier. His skin turns a mottled purple as he begins to drag me toward the bed. By some act of fate, the force at least causes the material of my dress to tear. I take a deep, shuddering breath, the pressure alleviated from my neck. The fabric is still biting into my flesh. I can feel it as it tears my skin, and a few tears leak out from my eyes. Desperately, I search for anything that will keep me away from the bed. The one place he wants me, more than anything. The one place I absolutely must not go. My eyes land on a heavy vase. It sits on a table near the bed, with any luck close enough to be in arm's reach. One hand darts out. My heart soars when I make contact, feeling the cool sensation of stone against my palm. I grip the handle tight, yanking my hand back to slam the vase against the side of his skull. Momentarily surprised, he stumbles to the side, releasing me. Stunned but not stopped, his eyes flare with new anger. I swallow hard, quickly fixing my grip on the vase so that it is firmly held by both hands. Getting my legs steadily beneath me, I swing a second time as hard as I can. This time, he collapses to the floor. A red patch quickly spreads across the side of his head, his skin and hair soaked in blood. I release the vase, letting it clatter loudly to the ground. Even the noise isn't enough to jar me as I stare at him dumbfounded, watching the stain grow larger by the second. My breath comes out in ragged gasps, and I take a moment to collect myself. When my pulse finally slows, I stop to think. His chest rises and falls steadily. For now, at least, he is still alive. With any luck, maybe he will wake up sober and in a better frame of mind. Between the alcohol and the injury, my only hope is that he can't recall the events leading up to it. Or perhaps he will be too embarrassed to admit what happened, even if he does remember. Gritting my teeth, I drag his limp body closer to the table. Then I rip a scrap of fabric from my torn dress. Grimacing, I drag it across the head wound, smearing blood on the corner of the table. To anyone giving a cursory look, it will appear as though he stumbled drunkenly and hit his head on the table. Maybe that will be good enough. It has to be, I think desperately. I rip another scrap of material, big enough to wipe the blood from the vase. Setting it carefully back into its rightful place, I study the scene left behind. It seems sufficient, or at least I hope. Quickly tossing the rags into the fireplace, I watch as the most damning evidence turns into ash. Footsteps in the hall jerk me out of my reverie. I hold my breath as my heart beats wildly in my chest, my eyes turning anxiously toward the door. Indoor? It is Madame Fleur. Damn it, of all the people to find me here, she may be the worst. Hurriedly, I grab a thin blanket from the bed, draping it over my shoulders as though I am chilled. It hides the noticeable damage to my dress, and I pray she doesn't question it. Indoor? She calls again. I give one last glance to his body on the floor. He certainly won't be answering her call any time soon. Even in my desperate state, I can't help but feel a glimmer of amusement and pride. I step toward the door, my fleeting good mood replaced by terror as I watch the knob begin to turn. The door swings open a crack as Madame Fleur pokes her head inside. I stiffen, my body going rigid and tight. Don't act suspicious, I try to coax myself. Don't give yourself away. Pretend you don't know anything either. Indoor? She calls a third time. Her eyes land on me and she scowls. What are you doing back here? Where's Indoor? She demands impatiently. Then her eyes go wide. Her eyes dart around the room before landing on me again, staring at me in shock. What have you done? Chapter 49. Sadie. Why are you in a bedroom besides your own or indoors? She hisses at me, looking indignant. Did I teach you nothing? Think what this could mean for your reputation. What if Indoor sends you back for a slip-up like this? Heady relief floods me as I realise she hasn't spotted Indoor's body. She's just recognised that I'm in this room, unattended. Her face is etched with irritation and worry. If she were anyone else, the concern might seem touching. I know, of course, that she is more worried about her own bottom line than my well-being or future. If Indoor thought I was sleeping around on him and sent me back to the boarding school, he would have a right to demand his money back. She sold me for a hefty price, I'm sure. She doesn't want to miss out on a profitable payday because I am now damaged goods. And take that blanket off, she snaps. You look like a grandmother, not the fashionable young mistress Indoor came for. I stare at her, not sure what to say. I'm tempted to sass her back, as the idea of being Indoor's fashionable young mistress sounds more ridiculous all the time. It's so absurd anymore that I could laugh now, as if she were telling a funny joke. Tempting as it may be, I bite back the desire to engage. Furthering this conversation, for any reason, increases the chance I will be caught. Indoor's limp, unconscious body is hidden behind the bed, only a few feet away. Between the fact that he could wake up at any time, and that a few more steps into the room would reveal my secret, I just want her gone. The satisfaction of an argument is not worth the risk. Luckily, I am saved from having to figure out how to sidestep the issue. Someone appears in the doorway, tapping Madame Fleur's elbow from behind. "Madam, we need you in the other room." She lets out one last frustrated huff in my direction, shooting daggers at me. But she turns away, letting herself be escorted back to the party. I let out a sigh of relief, quietly closing the door behind her. Giving the room one last look, I decide that everything is satisfactory. I've gotten rid of the most damning evidence that I am the reason Indor is unconscious on the floor right now. If anyone finds him, they'll have trouble tracing it immediately back to me. There is the matter of the madam seeing me here. But I'll think of an excuse later. After all, she didn't see him. Maybe I can claim he must have come by later, fallen and hit his head. Besides, none of this will matter if he remembers that I'm the one who did it. It's all a mess, and I'll just have to untangle it one piece at a time. I pull open the door silently, peeking out to make sure no one is around. Quietly clicking the door shut behind me, I wrap the blanket tighter around myself to cover my torn dress. Then I sneak up to the room, carefully avoiding any of the other dinner guests. In my room, I toss the blanket aside and change into my night clothes. It's hard to sleep at first, as my mind is anxious and on edge. I wish I knew what would come from my earlier actions. Will Indor remember and want revenge? Is anyone else going to be able to put the pieces together? Soon, despite my best intentions to stay awake and on guard, I find myself drifting off. The day has been taxing. My eyes grow heavier by the minute, until eventually they shut for the last time. I'm startled awake by hands, grabbing and tugging on me. I scream. For a second, in my dazed state, I think Indor is back for what I refused him earlier. As the sleep ebbs from my brain, I begin to realise that these hands are not caressing me. This is not the touch of a lover, even an unwelcome one. My head swivels around the dark room to see that several dark elves are dragging me out of bed. "What are you doing?" My voice is high and sharp, filled with panic. "Where are you taking me?" They don't answer. I struggle in their grasp, but soon give up. Instead, my mind races with all the possibilities. Did Indor wake up? Did he order my death or imprisonment? Or am I being sent to his room, forced to give him what he wants? When we arrive at the prison-like tower, the answer seems clear. Indor must have woken up and demanded my arrest. It won't matter to anyone but me if it was self-defense because he tried to assault me first. One of the dark elves pushes me against the stone wall of the tower. Through my thin nightgown, it is cold and scratchy against my back. I shiver, both with terror and chill. I watch as the other elves break away to begin preparing my chains. Realising their intentions, I struggle valiantly to break free. It is my last chance, my only chance, for escape. The elf holding me is unyielding. Despite my best efforts, I cannot change the course of action. When the chains are ready, he hauls me roughly over. Before I know it, the cold metal is tightening against my skin, holding me firm in its stoic embrace. I scream as they leave me there, rattling the chains with all the force I can muster. It makes no difference. I am alone, wasting my own breath and energy. With one final jerk, I give up, despondent. My eyes roam around the room until they land on a bizarre sight. A few feet away lies Indor's body. At first glance, he isn't too changed from the way that I left him in the bedroom. A bloody gash on the side of the head, his form limp and comatose. If he is still unconscious, he can't be the one who ordered me to be imprisoned here. My mind reels with confusion, trying to figure out what is happening. Something nags me about Indor. I stare at him curiously before it sinks in. He doesn't just look lifeless now. He is. He was breathing when I left him, but now his body has that unnatural stiffness and pallor which means death. I gasp, peering closer. A part of my brain half expects his eyes to pop open any second, to smirk at me, very much alive, and chuckle over how he fooled me. Did my blow kill him after all? He was just injured. My heart sinks, realizing I might be in even more trouble than I realized. If I'm being held for murder, it's hard to see any light at the end of this tunnel. A movement catches my eye. I tear my gaze away from Indor to see Gandalf entering the room. He laughs the way that I expected Indor to, as if it is all a very funny joke. Crossing closer to the body, he kicks it thoughtlessly, the way one would kick a stone down the street. You made it even easier for me to get rid of him, you know. I appreciate the help. What do you mean? I ask in a shaky voice, utterly bewildered by this point. I knew you were trying to poison me. His face twists into a scowl. For a moment, his hatred is written into his expression. He pushes his resentment aside to continue casually. I switched our wines. You poisoned him. Now for me, that would have been enough. He shrugs, smirking. But then you took it a step further, clocked him right in the head. Between that and the poison, he didn't have a chance. He just laid on the floor while it quietly ran through his system, never even saw it coming. How can you know all that? I gasp. Are you watching me all the time? He laughs again. His eyes are wild and don't match his calm expression at all. He's more of a lunatic than Hocker, I realise in horror, and I am here chained and at his mercy. You're so naive, he says scornfully, just like with your choice in company. Do you think you're safe with the wearer? You're a joke to them. He laughs more gleefully, holding his stomach as if his sides ache from the humour. Wyra don't care about you. They don't get attached. They're dark creatures born from cannibalism. He's going to eat you the same as everyone else. And just like Indor, you'll never see your end coming, because you want so badly to believe that you're special. He spits the last word out as if it tastes bad in his mouth. Renem isn't like that, I insist. My stomach churns, feeling as if I might be sick. My thoughts and feelings are conflicted by his words, so distressed that I can't decide what to think. Is it the dead body that makes me feel this way? The crazy man who is threatening me could be enough to make me ill. Or on some level, do I believe what he says about Renem? Am I nauseated because I am being confronted by the truth, hard as it is to hear? Have I been ignoring reality all this time, so desperate to feel special and loved that I will take it from anyone? I don't care what you think, he sneers in amusement. Stupid girls die stupid deaths, but first, it's time to fulfill your destiny. He begins to chant in an unfamiliar tongue. The words float through my brain, and I can't make sense of any of them. My stomach knots with dread, my chest painfully tight. What happens now? If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to Indor, I would have laughed.
The forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
But what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine. Chapter 50. Renem. I discard the husk that remains of the dark elf. His lifeless form drops to the ground, leaves rustling as the body settles. Like the first elf I hunted, this one doesn't sate my hunger or restore my energy either. More, I grunt involuntarily. I don't have time to waste trying to find a third meal. 2 will have to be sufficient for now. I need to go save Sadie. I move quickly in the direction of the manor, my footsteps crunching against the dry leaves. Though it is dark out, my eyes are sharper than an elf's, giving me the upper hand. I only hope it will be enough when it matters. When I finally get closer to the manor, I hover over the ground, zipping from one hiding spot to another. This way no one can hear my steps. I move through the shadows to disguise myself, staying in the darkest spots. I duck behind trees and bushes, watching as the lights of the guards on patrol bounce with each step. I wait until the way is clear before edging my way forward, one step at a time. It feels almost like solving a puzzle, the way that I duck and weave to avoid them. Under any other circumstances, it might almost be a fun challenge. Tonight, I must bite my lip to contain my frustration. I'm impatient to just run recklessly ahead until Sadie is back in my arms where she belongs. Stealthy as I am, 2 guards on patrol still manage to spy my blurred outline near the gates. "Who goes there?" one demands in a sharp tone. I hold my breath, hearing the lantern rattle as he shakes it in my direction. The other is already loading an arrow into his bow. He readies his shot, straining his eyes to aim in the dark. I decide to lean into the element of surprise, charging them quickly before they can compose themselves. Before long, there are 2 more bodies to add to my kill count. I don't even bother to devour or play with them. I can't remember the last time I let a perfectly good meal go to waste. I do tonight, pulling the life from their bodies as quickly and skillfully as I can, so that I can return to my mission. 2 kills, it turns out, will not be enough. The lawns of the manor are broad and expansive, with little to hide behind. There are guards swarming everywhere. Even the ones I cannot see, I can sense. I can see the broad wooden door gleaming in the moonlight at the end of my path, but it feels as though it might as well be miles away. As fast as I am, there's only so much I can do when so many obstacles stand in my way. I can't give up. Sadie is waiting for me. She needs me in there, and I am stuck out here with these horrible men. I bare my teeth at the thought, my temper flaring. I move quietly, but 2 more guards charge before long. These ones are a more difficult and drawn-out battle as they see me plainly from a distance away. It takes a few tries to get the upper hand, dodging their weapons. I'm stronger and faster, confident that I will take them down eventually. Still, every moment I am delayed feels like an excruciating lifetime. Finally, I manage to end their lives as well. However, not before one guard lifts something to his lips. I pause in confusion, trying to understand what he is doing. A sharp blast answers the question. I cover my ears to drown out the piercing sound. Too late, I realize the tactical error I have made. "No!" I roar, but it does nothing to stop the onslaught. More guards are swarming to answer his call, coming from every direction. Hurriedly, I drop to the ground, crawling across the grass to break the whistler's neck. The bones crunch and grind beneath my fingers, giving me a temporary sense of satisfaction. I may have dealt with one enemy in the nick of time, but now there are 7 new guards standing in my way. I don't have time for this, I think with alarm. Killing 7 elves normally would pose no problem for me, but Sadie is waiting. What a waste of perfectly good food. So many lovely meals before me and no time to enjoy any of them. Not even a snack. I charge toward 2 elves approaching from the left, my adrenaline humming. I can smell their fear, but I am too worried about Sadie to enjoy it. At the last second, I change my position so that I attack feet first, surprising them. My claws dig into the soft belly of one. He collapses to the ground, blood already pooling beneath him. The scent is tantalizing, but I can't afford to lose focus now. The other guard takes a step back, evading my grip for now. More are approaching from every side. I reach for the nearest one, listening to him scream as I squeeze his hand so tight the bones shatter. Deftly, I manage to squirm away. I have played enough games. There is still a sizable distance between me and the front door of the manor, which means that these fools will manage to survive another day. I'd normally regret missing the opportunity, but there are more pressing matters now. I fly desperately toward the manor, barely escaping the guards who still reach and grab for me. One tightens his hand around my foot, trying to stop me. I have no choice but to reach down, dragging my claws across the skin and slitting his throat. Free, I race through the air, barreling toward the heavy wooden door. The only thing moving faster is my thoughts, all fixated on Sadie. I will kill anyone who stands in my way, I resolve grimly. Whoever is on the other side of this door better move, or I am coming to move you. And if they have hurt a hair on her head, they will have to pray that their gods have mercy on them, because I will not. The door is locked tightly, but that isn't enough to stop me. With my claws, I dig into the wood, tearing it into splinters at my touch. When a hole bigger than my head appears, I kick until the remainder breaks apart into fragments. I crawl through the gaping hole where the door used to be. My eyes search anxiously for any sign of her. I fly hurriedly, covering the ground as quickly as possible. It is a large building which does little to alleviate my fear. What if I am too late? What if they have already done whatever horrible thing they intend to do? The thought is dizzying. My skull rings with all the worries that bounce around, demanding to be heard. I suppose that is why I don't even notice the trap until it is too late. At the top of a secluded flight of stairs near the back of the manor, I hear the sudden sound of rushing footsteps. I turn at the noise to see a new wave of guards rushing me. In the tight space, they blend together, a sea of arms and legs that makes it impossible to count. An arrow is already flying through the air, and then another, and then another. I crash to the ground with a loud, jarring thud, feeling the steps dig into my ribs at contact. The air rushes out of my lungs in a loud exhale. My head bounces painfully against a step, cracking against the edge so forcefully that it makes my vision swim blearily. There are legs every way I look, surrounding me. The last thing I hear is a harsh, raspy voice. "It's your end, Wera." Chapter 51. Renem. It was not in fact my end. I may have been outnumbered, but I was not outmatched. I pant for air, my chest burning with exertion as I survey the carnage around me. Dead bodies litter the stairs, piled so deep I can hardly see the stone surface beneath the spent carcasses. It seems hard to imagine any guards remain anywhere on the property. I half believe I've killed them all by now. No matter. If any others should come for me, I'll kill them too. Nothing is going to stand in the way of me getting to Sadie. I slowly drag myself higher up the stairs. I can no longer fly thanks to the guard's arrows which shot me down. The damage will heal, eventually, but for now I must walk. There's a loud bang from up ahead. I raise my eyes to see two more guards charging down the stairs at me. These ones carry spears. I sigh in frustration, noting how it never seems to end. Will I be climbing and fighting forever? "It's enough!" I roar, and it seems to shock them momentarily. No time for that now. I'm exhausted, but I can't stop. I dig deep inside, mustering the strength to take on another two enemies. The worst they could do is kill me. I'm willing to die for Sadie. Anything is better than living a life that stretches endlessly without her. Quick as a flash, I bound up the stairs, grabbing one guard by the throat. He stabs the spear into the soft flesh of my upper arm. It cuts clean through to the other side, but I take the hit and persist. "Foolish," I snarl at the dark elf. Even as the spear sticks out the back of my arm, I squeeze his neck, feeling the muscle roll beneath my fingers. His eyes bulge as I choke the life from him, the skin of his face mottling under pressure. The feeling, despite my fatigue, is quite pleasurable. Under other circumstances, I'd relish it as long as I could. Some might call it playing with my food, but that's always been one of my favorite parts of the hunt. I only have a few seconds, however. The second guard is delayed one step behind the first. On the crowded stairs, he had to fall behind, as there is only room for one attack at a time. But now, with the first guard's feet dangling above the ground, it's only a matter of time before he forces his way forward. He's already trying. I kick one foot forward, sending him flying back up the stairs as I buy myself some time. The nails of my foot tear into his stomach. He bends over, grabbing his stomach to stop the flow of blood. The thought makes me salivate with appreciation. but I force myself to focus on the man in my hands. I need him out of the way, then I can finish the other one. I latch my sharp teeth into his throat, noticing a plump vein that protrudes as if taunting me. I tear in frantically, making quick, sloppy work of the meal. The second guard reappears. What the? His face pales at the sight. Scrambling backwards, he tries to retreat at the last second. I toss the shell of the half-eaten carcass down the stairs, letting it fall with the others. Then I turn with gleaming fangs to face him, limping up the stairs resolutely after him. In his frantic haste, he trips. With that, his fate is sealed. I devour him urgently, drawing all the power I can get from him. Magic tingles through my body, sparking and popping in the air surrounding me. I pull the spear out of my arm. The flesh begins to knit back together, healing itself with the energy I'm siphoning out of the guard. It isn't much, but it will do for now. He is soon spent, utterly drained. Dazed, I look around the stairwell. My mind is thick and cloudy, a sense of disorientation derailing my thoughts. My senses are overwhelmed. I have drawn from more sources tonight than I ever imagined possible. Their various energy conflicts with each other, dancing aggressively around my head in a maddening dance. I can't think around the low buzzing in my skull. Everything is too much, too little, too soft, too hard, too loud, too quiet, too bright and too dim, all at once. There's an itching along the surface of my body that makes me want to claw myself simply to relieve the burning. I feel as if I am floating, as if all that I need is to somehow escape this corporal form that is slowing me down. A detached part of my brain wonders if I have somehow died and do not know. It would make as much sense as anything else. I've never felt this way before, and I don't know what to do with the unpleasant, contradictory sensations coursing through my body. I glance down the stairs, considering if I should finish draining one of the half-spent bodies down there. There are certainly plenty to choose from. Am I hungry or overfed? I can't decide. I take a few steps closer, sniffing the air to select one that seems particularly appetizing. One, I can tell by the scent, is barely touched. I rummage through the bodies until I find the snack I am looking for. With one last deep breath, I confirm that this is the one. But something else fills my nostrils, pulling my focus away. Urgently, I lift my face to trace the source. It is drifting from the top of the stairs, behind the door that the most recent guards came through. The aroma is pungent and sharp. A sour, tangy taste fills my mouth as I breathe it in. I drop the body in my hands carelessly, no longer able to pause for a bite to eat. As fast as my feet can take me, I hurry frantically up the stairs, determined to bust down the door. The smell, I know without a doubt, is the scent of black magic. No, I gasp, rushing as fast as I can. That tells me two things. First, that I know where Sadie is. But more importantly, the second, that she is in more trouble than ever before.
There comes a time when you must sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself.
My job was to kidnap her, not fall in love with her.
What if Julius had seen me use magic? He must never know.
What's happening to me? What's happening to my magic?
He would never understand. He'd see me as a liability, a risk too great to keep close.
When everything begins to fall apart, and the only remedy is to sacrifice your heart.
No, I can't let him find out.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, don't do this.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail.
And that time is now.
Savannah, run!
Chapter 52. Sadie. Magic rips through me, scorching the insides of my veins and tangling through my muscles and innards. I know I'm screaming, my jaw stretching as my mouth contorts. but I can't hear it over the deafening buzz of dark magic. "No!" I cry, the words lost in the air. "Stop!" My back arches as pain sears me inside and out, my feet no longer on the ground. Gandalf's incantation echoes around me as if it's being spoken from every angle and in every dark corner of my brain. Pure, unadulterated agony racks me, my body convulsing beneath every wave. My muscles tear and are rebound again and again. Gandalf's magic feels as though razors are working through my bloodstream, slicing open every piece of me only to reform it and do it again. "Stop!" The words rip open my throat as I scream them. "Stop!" I chant over and over. Snaps and crackles sound in tandem with Gandalf's voice, his words getting louder, his voice more agitated as he continues. I would have thought I'd have passed out by now, the pain too overwhelming to stomach. But whatever he's doing prevents my body and mind from trying to escape. In some small corner of my mind, I find logic and awareness, find a piece of myself, even as my body tries and fails to shut down around me. That small part of me screams and rails against the pain, not in agony, but with the knowledge of what the pain is doing to me. I've never felt my magic, not truly, but I feel it now. It's what Gandalf's spell is feeding off of. A secret, hidden well of strength opens in my core, my magic reacting to the threat before me. I try to channel it, but Gandalf's magic invades it before I can even attempt to turn it back on him. Fetid tendrils of his magic slither around the growing bud of my own, suffocating it, draining it. It feels as though my soul is being taken with it. That light dimming as more and more of Gandalf's spell overtakes me. Everything hurts, every breath and cell of my body screaming in pain. Gandalf's magic is too much, and I'm too weak to do anything to save myself now. This was a stupid, childish plan, and now I'll never see Renem again. Maybe it wasn't magic at all that I felt within me. Maybe Jorban and Garrigal were wrong about me. I'm not the chosen one, some saviour for all of Protheka. I'm just an orphan, trained and raised to be a whore. That well of strength, the little light I thought was my magic, could just be my soul. And it's being sucked away with every passing second. The fight begins to drain out of me as my thoughts turn dark, some of the pain ebbing away with my resolve. Maybe that's the trick. If I just stop fighting, all of this will go away. I'll finally be free, and I won't hurt like this anymore. As soon as the thought crosses my mind, a crash echoes from my left. It nearly escapes my notice, except that as the disturbance sounds through the room, some of Gandalf's magic pulls back, the blue and black spell ebbing away just enough for me to see the room once again. The magic tendrils that had encased me connect back to Gandalf's outstretched hands, but his eyes are no longer on me as he chants. I follow the line of his vision to find the door to the tower slammed open, a blood-soaked, sagging figure in the doorframe. My pain-addled mind struggles to make sense of the familiarity I feel looking at the figure, and it's not until the figure moves again, the moonlight pouring in through the window glinting off of the bone white of his skull, that I realise who it is. Renem. A new wave of terror sweeps through me, drowning any relief I feel at seeing him again. "Renem, run!" I scream, my voice rough and choked through the pain. Renem cocks his head at my voice, his eyes turning to me as the black tinged crimson of his heart glows dully through the gore that soaks him. He staggers toward me, moving slower than he should, and panic begins to crowd out the agony of Gandalf's spell. What is he doing? He's going to get himself killed. "Go!" I try to yell, but I'm unable to get enough air in my lungs from the crushing pressure of the black magic invading me. Despite my warnings, Renem continues toward me, braving the pulsing sphere of magic I'm encased in. Gandalf lets out a derisive snort across the room as he watches Renem move toward me. "You can do nothing to stop me, Wyra!" he shouts gleefully, jerking his hand toward Renem. A tendril of magic follows his motion, a black and blue whip forming and crashing into Renem, sending him careening into the far wall. "No!" I scream as I watch Renem struggle back to his feet. I've never felt such terror, so powerless, as I do watching Renem try in vain to reach me once again. Renem ignores my plea, and ignores Gandalf's blows, limping slowly toward me once again. His efforts cause me more pain than Gandalf's magic ever could, and I realise two things all at once. One, I love Renem. He may have terrified me, and we've seen more than our fair share of conflict, but somewhere along the way I fell so deeply in love with him that I don't think I could exist on this planet if he didn't too. Two, I'm about to watch him die. Panic, swift and thorough, drowns out the pain of Gandalf's magic. Gandalf is no longer focused on me, instead watching Renem half drag himself toward the circle I'm encased in with a cruel smile twisting his face. Renem's eyes never leave me, even as Gandalf breaks from his incantation and begins to funnel his powers into a lengthening sword before him, aimed directly at Renem. I struggle against the circle of magic, thrashing away the tendrils holding me in place. "Renem, stop! Renem!" I scream, but he doesn't listen to me. He continues forward toward the circle, extending an arm as if he means to push through the circle itself to get to me. Magic sizzles as it comes in contact with the flesh of his palm, but Renem doesn't stop, grinding his teeth against the pain as he continues to push toward me. Gandalf finishes conjuring his sword, his eyes finding mine once again as his smile turns into a face-splitting grin, nothing but cruelty and hatred colouring his features. "No, no, 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 please!" I beg. Gandalf's smile only grows at my pleas, and then he launches the blade toward us, the tip of the magic focused at Renem's turned back. Everything comes to a head all at once. A lifetime of agony, suffering, anger and hurt explode to the surface, and I let out an earth-shattering scream. My scream seems to shake the tower itself, time coming to a standstill. The magical sword Gandalf had launched in the air makes a sizzling sound as it disappears on the other side of Renem's body, and for a moment I think he's been struck. Renem shows no signs of pain, however. His heart flickers pink, signalling his own confusion, and he shifts slightly, enough that I can see behind him. Where the pulsing black and blue would have pierced through him, a blazing wall of yellow-white light now stands, protecting Renem's body from the sword. It hums gently against the angry throbbing of the sword, and it takes me a second to register exactly what's happened. My magic. That's my magic. My outstretched palm warms as if to confirm that the power I'm seeing is indeed coming from me. But my victory is short-lived as Gandalf lets out a primal, furious scream. "You human bitch! What have you done?"
Chapter 53. Renem. My little day has grown claws. The thought flits through my mind unbidden as I stare at the warm white and yellow light glowing at my back. My eyes lift to Sadie, her outstretched palm glowing with the same strange light, and pride fills me. "You human bitch! What have you done?" Gandalf screeches over my shoulder in a fit of rage. My body screams in protest as I continue to try and push past the magic Gandalf has encased Sadie in, but I know that I can't stop. To stop would mean my death and, more importantly, Sadie's. I refuse to let that happen. I've seen enough magic in my centuries on this planet to make sense of what Gandalf is doing. He's cast a circle, an extremely powerful one, to hold Sadie captive while he channels his spell through her. Like any enchanted circle, however, it requires a core. He's using Sadie's magic, her very soul, to power the circle and keep her trapped. The only way to break an enchantment circle is to remove the core and replace it with something else. Replacing the core the circle feeds off of will destabilize the entire spell and send all of that power careening back into the wielder. Given the amount of power Sadie holds, and the amount of power Gandalf is trying to channel through her, removing Sadie from the circle and using my own body to replace her as the core will all but guarantee Gandalf's death, and that is something I would very much like to see. I push against the circle, ignoring Gandorf's cries of outrage. Despite the power that Sadie wields, she is untried, and I have no idea how long she will be able to last, especially after all she has endured and the toll Gandorf's torture has taken on her human body. Putrid ribbons of black and blue dark magic sizzle against my skin, trying to defend the circle's power. I grit my teeth against the burning pain, pushing harder against the barrier. It is designed not to let another soul pass through, but I am not just any soul. I'm a bringer of death. Gandorf screams wordlessly as he realizes what I'm trying to do, and Sadie makes a noise of pure panic at what she sees over my shoulder. A shrill grating echoes from behind me, no doubt a clashing of Sadie and Gandorf's magic, but I ignore it, focusing on the task at hand. I have to push through this circle no matter the cost. Once Sadie is free and safe from Gandorf, I can succumb to the pain from my injuries. Until then, I will fight for her. My hand penetrates the circle suddenly, but my victory is short-lived as Gandorf's magic closes forcefully around my forearm, the bone in my arm breaking beneath the pressure with a loud crack. I swallow my cry of pain, gnashing my jaws against it and trying to maintain my focus as my arm dangles at a right angle on the other side of the circle. The pain does not matter. My arm does not matter. Only Sadie matters. I repeat the words in my head again and again, using the mantra to drown out my body's protests. "Renem," Sadie says, panic lacing her voice. "I can't do it. I can't hold him back for much longer." "It's okay, little Day." I grit out through the pain. "I'm coming." The heat at my back disappears as Sadie's magic flickers out, and immediately the warmth is replaced with biting pain. I chance a glance over my shoulder to find the hilt of a pulsing magic sword sticking out from between my shoulder blades, one of Gandorf's attacks finally finding its mark. Gandorf takes advantage of Sadie's sudden absence of power, whips of magic opening the flesh on my back and sending scorching licks of pain through my body. I weather it, stifling my cries of pain as best I can. If he is focused on stopping me, hurting me, then he is not hurting Sadie. Another sword finds purchase in my back, rocking me forward into the searing magic of the circle with its force and puncturing one of my lungs. I call upon the ancient magic in my veins, concentrating what's left of my lifeblood and power around my head and my heart. I can regrow anything else, but I cannot allow my head or heart to be injured, not until Sadie is safe. Fresh blood oozes from my injuries, mingling with the carnage already matting my thick fur. I push harder against the enchanted circle, managing to push my arm through up to my shoulder. "Renem, please! You have to stop! You're going to get yourself killed!" Sadie chokes tearfully. I let my eyes raise to hers, the lively blue now haunted and afraid. Anger whips through me at the sight of my little Day so broken, so resigned to her fate. I let it fuel me as I push again, managing to step through the pulsing circle with my left leg. Bringing my head and heart through will be the most dangerous. If I linger, if I don't time it exactly right, I risk being killed. And if I am killed, Sadie will be all alone, left to whatever horrors Gandorf still has in store for her. The dark elf sorcerer shrieks his fury as he realizes that I've made it further into the circle, throwing more shards of magic at me. The tip of my skull nearly brushes the magical wall of the circle as Gandorf launches more power at me, and I realize that with every strike he sends my way, the magic surrounding the circle flickers. It's a slight tell, but a tell nonetheless, and one I plan to make use of. I absorb more of Gandorf's punishing strikes, agony lancing indiscriminately through my body until I see my opportunity. Gandorf draws back his magic, likely with the intent of delivering a death blow, and the circle flickers. I launch myself through the barrier, scorching pain enveloping my body and sending me to my knees as I land on the other side next to Sadie. A broken sob slips from her throat as she falls to her knees beside me, Gandorf screaming behind us. Sadie's arms are around me in an instant, and with what's left of my strength, I pull her to me, cradling her against my chest as she cries. "Why would you do that? How could you be so stupid?" she sobs, her fingers winding into the fur at my chest. I drop my snout to the crook of her neck, inhaling her scent deeply, knowing this may very well be the last time I ever enjoy it. Her blood sings its sweet song, lulling me toward unconsciousness, but I fight against the comfort I so desperately want. She is not safe yet. I cannot allow myself to be distracted. "You are my light, little day," I murmur as I pull away from her. My uninjured hand finds the chains binding her wrists, and I snap the metal easily, the broken chain dangling from her manacle. "I knew nothing but darkness before you, but now I know what it is to bathe in the sun." I stare down at the beautiful human woman I've become so enraptured with, and I hope that she knows despite my soulless appearance, she has every piece of me I can offer. I am hers, only hers, and nothing will ever change that. My hackles raise suddenly as Gandorf shrieks, and without seeing, I know what's coming. I throw Sadie away from me suddenly, diving to cover her as another of Gandorf's enchanted swords flies toward us. Something vital inside of me sputters as I absorb the blow, and I look down to find the tip of the sword protruding from my glowing heart. Colors begin to flicker madly, every emotion I've ever known, and some that are new beginning to overtake me. "No, no, 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 no!" Sadie says in a panic, the blood draining from her face as she stares at my heart. My strength is draining quickly, but I know what I have to do. I have little time left, but I will make the most of it. "I promise to protect you, and I intend to keep that promise." Sadie's brows knit together in confusion as her eyes flick to mine, but I don't give her time to react. Instead, with the last of my strength, I shove Sadie out of the circle, and then everything explodes. In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.